Indie filmmakers, resourceful, scrappy, turning constraints into creativity. With AI, they're stretching budgets, challenging the big studios. Discover how at our panel discussion, Filmmakers Lens, Navigating the AI Landscape in Cinema.
So we've been listening to all of these panels talking about how big productions can leverage AI. We've been covering some basic groundwork, but now this is the fun panel. We're here to represent the stalwart, very resourceful, strappy indie filmmakers. And we know that Hollywood is actually scared of us. So yeah, I know, admit it. You're scared. We are the first to experiment with these tools. Oftentimes, we are the first to fail. We show what is possible, and we teach others. And everyone on this panel has done that very, very well. So I'm going to introduce them. This panel is going to explore a lot of different things, but you've heard of AI tools being used as research methods for folks in bigger budget productions, but a lot of times these are being used as actual means of production for smaller indie filmmakers. And everyone on this panel, including myself, have been using these tools and in the process democratizing access, showing how different people can use these tools in a very low budget way. But that comes with downsides and upsides. So we're going to talk about all of it. We're going to talk about leveraging AI to enhance creativity, streamlining production, and optimizing distribution, but all from the perspective of independent filmmaking, which is why we're here, right? Are we excited? Thank you. That feels good. I like that. All right, so I'm going to introduce our speakers. They're an incredible bunch. I'm going to go to my bio section. Strap in, guys. These are very talented humans. So we've got Don Allen Stevenson III. Yeah.
Thank you.
He's a visionary XR and AR futurist, known as the Bob Ross of the metaverse. Don has carved out a unique niche in the intersection of art and technology, with a prowess leading him to prominent platforms like TED 2023, MIT, and Cannes Lions to share his insights. On the future of creativity. Don honed his skills and understanding of the industry working at DreamWorks Animation. Yeah. And now collaborates with major tech and entertainment companies like Meta, OpenAI, Universal, and more, pushing the boundaries of what's possible in the digital realm. But it's not all about technology. He's a strong advocate for balancing health, finances, family, and community while living fully in accordance with his core values and life goals. His values and pursuit of excellence are apparent in his work, and his passion for empowering creativity is truly inspiring. Thank you, y'all.
Thank you. That's so sweet. Hello.
So I'm going to embarrass them all by reading bios so that we don't have to talk about it during the panel. And then we can just get into the fun meat. So we have Grace. Grace is a trailblazing creative director who is reshaping the landscape of storytelling and fan engagement with her adept use of AI, AR and VR, Web3 technologies. Not only did she launch and sell out Crash Punks, the largest Bitcoin NFT collection to date, but she's also ingeniously expanded this original IP through AI filmmaking, AR fashion, interactive storytelling, and gaming. Her approach to film saw her win the coveted Film Innovation Award at the Catalyst Story Festival with her stunning short film debut. And prior to her current ventures, Grace left her mark in the realm of Web3 as a successful entrepreneur and venture capitalist. She's working on brain art interfaces that have exhibited worldwide, and she's undoubtedly a luminary, tirelessly pushing the boundaries of what is possible. Please welcome Grace. Woo. They're just gonna look real pretty. Look at their faces, aren't they beautiful? And now we have Niko. Niko's a visionary co-founder of Corridor Digital. He's been at the forefront of digital video and visual effects since 2004. From humble beginnings, Niko and his partner Sam transformed Corridor Digital into an independent entertainment powerhouse, amassing over 15 million subscribers. 2 billion global video views. Is that right?
What?
Global video views? 2 million global video views?
Billion.
2 billion! Man, look at me making things wrong. It was just ChatGPT, it wasn't me. I'm kidding, it was me, I made that mistake. Including a dedicated streaming platform at quarterdigital.com. They've created compelling content for major outlets like Netflix, Amazon, and Hulu. He's worked in everything from directing to 3D animation with the intent of staying on the cutting edge of technology. So please welcome Niko. We're very grateful that he's on this panel. And finally, I'm almost done talking, I promise. Paul is a multidisciplinary artist. He's a writer, director who pushes the limits of filmmaking with his experimental and highly technical films. He's been pioneering new techniques, the creation of the first fully mobile bullet time camera rig, and choreographing an aerial smoke show using drones. His innovative approach resulted in an impressively fresh body of work. His viral visual effects experiments have pushed the boundaries of AI tools and inspired others to explore the possibilities of AI filmmaking. His work in narrative, music videos, and commercials have landed him, is it 18 Vimeo staff picks? 18 Vimeo staff picks. Those are hard to get, you guys. And features in prestigious outlets like Rolling Stone, The New Yorker, Fast Co, Vice, Gizmodo, and The Atlantic, just to name a few. He's been recognized as one of D&AD's next directors and has won awards such as the One Show's One to Watch. His commercial portfolio includes directing for Microsoft, T-Mobile, Squarespace, IBM, even the Super Bowl commercial for Carvana. His work in AI has cemented his reputation in the industry, leading to multiple speaking engagements at so many conferences, and I'm so excited to welcome him to this stage. Please give me a warm welcome to Paul.
Thank you. Thanks.
That was a handful, but I really wanted to just take the time to introduce you all.
That was a lot.
Let's take a deep breath together. All right, so I have the first question. Okay. So we have a proliferation of AI tools that we've all been hearing about, so many different use cases. Considering that everyone and their mother has access to these tools now, how can we make unique work that is captivating, that is interesting, that speaks to our own aesthetic in this very, very saturated market? Start with you.
It's a good question.
Oh,
You go.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. It's a little hard to prescribe because I just make what's inside of me. And I also look for people constantly want to be surprised. They want to see things they haven't seen before. And I want to surprise myself, and I try to get myself out of my comfort zone. So if there's something, I don't know how the hell to do it, then that's usually an idea I want to pursue. But also there's an emotional side, and just, I love to write as well. So there's a side where what can I combine from my personal life experience, what makes me unique, and then also what's something I haven't seen before. And I try to find like what marries those two. And I don't know, I mean, maybe that works for me, maybe it doesn't work for everyone, but I think if you're making work that's honest to yourself, eventually that'll resonate with an audience. Rather than being just a reflection of what you see, how do you turn that reflection into something that is reflecting yourself rather than reflecting whatever trends are going on? So and I think we're at a really unique time where we can have a machete and hack away at this weird AI jungle and discover new ideas and discover new techniques that haven't been developed. And I think because I like to take it as a challenge when people say that everything's been done before, because I think that with technology, it's not quite the case. You can do things that maybe are inspired, but I think there's new visual opportunities that just never existed before, and so especially on the independent side. So I think look for something that challenges you, try to do something that scares you and makes you nervous, and try to do something that feels personal and honest and reflects whatever is kind of going on in your mind at the time.
We're gonna get deeper into that, but Niko.
Right. All right, so making something unique with AI, obviously it depends on what AI tools you're using, but the biggest thing that I've observed working with AI tools, I do a lot of work with diffusion stuff, mainly stable diffusion. But it's effectively, this is vastly oversimplifying it, but you're basically remixing things that you teach the system. It's a pattern recognition system, right? Pretty much all of machine learning is a pattern recognition system. So you're providing it patterns, whether it's visual inputs, music inputs, text inputs, and the system starts to recognize where the patterns exist. And so you can get interesting things by combining things and creating, a new output from, a mix of two things. But you oftentimes, I mean, at least me, I oftentimes find myself kind of stuck feeling like my options are only a slider between A and B. And I didn't establish the aesthetic of A, I didn't establish the aesthetic of B. I can put a slider in the middle and get something unique. So to me, what I've really been focused on recently, it's all about fine-tuning and training your own models. At the end of the day, if you're an artist, you have a voice, you have an idea, you're probably not going to find it just by looking in a collection of latent space of other people's ideas. You might be able to find inspirations, but if you have a specific character, a specific world, things that you want to bring to life that's in your mind, you need to create some imagery around that, create some media around that, and then you need to be able to train your own AI models, or at least fine-tune your own AI models to give you that. So to me, I think the challenge moving forward with AI tools, it's about learning how to not just utilize the models that are out there, but how to actually take these neural networks and bend them and warp them and add new information that only you have as an artist, to make it truly your neural network with your own aesthetic coming out of it.
I love that, making it unique to you. Grace?
Yeah, I think it's a lot about your stories and your personal experience that AI can't replace yet. So what's inside of you? And I think a lot of the filmmaking practices and beliefs still hold true of like, write what you know, share what you know, and share a true story that will not only resonate with yourself and resonate with others. And then also like with the artistic curation of it, you're still the curator, and what's going to be aesthetic and appealing to you might not resonate with someone else, and might feel authentic to you, but might not feel authentic to someone else, and that's going to be what sticks. So you're just going to be consistently drawn to outputting something that's going to resonate with you internally, and that's just going to be your unique signature.
Yeah, keeping your signature. That's great. Don?
Yeah, the main one is like being comfortable with making mistakes and then experimenting and then sharing your mistakes with other people so you can get feedback. So like a lot of the ones I like to experiment with now, I didn't know they were going to work out for anything. I just thought, there's this new tool that exists right now. Can I just start playing with it right now and just sharing whatever the outcome is and just see how people respond, and then get that feedback and try it again and do it again and again. So the main piece is just like, if you want to make something new, experiment and pretend like you're a scientist that needs to like come up with a hypothesis that hasn't been tested before, and then have your peers review your science and have them make critiques and edits on it, and then you do the experiment again and keep trying that over and over, and you'll make something really new and unique every time.
Yeah. Okay, so now the fun part. How do you balance your unique creativity, your own voice, your own ideas with AI generation? What does that process of collaboration look like? Do you create a workflow? Is it really just on the fly experimentation? What does that process look and feel like? And what limits do you put to how much AI is influencing your creative process? That's for anyone.
Okay. Well, I mean, I've never had a collaborative tool before, so that is something wholly unique that we're experiencing now that we haven't ever had before. Where there were times where going to like Don's like failure idea, where you try something in After Effects and like the key, you're trying to color key something and like makes the skin tone all fucked up, and then you're like, oh, that's actually kind of a cool effect, and you get like a sort of a bit of a feedback loop between failure when you're trying to break plugins and tools and stuff like that. But it's still like pretty one-dimensional. I think now there's like an infinite feedback loop between you and the machine that we've never experienced. So it's winning to like, it's knowing when to, I say winning, it's knowing when to jump out of the feedback loop and walk away from the canvas. But it's nice to like have that collaborative thing, because I think you get stuck in your own feedback loop when you're in your head, and you start to generate, like, you find yourself kind of coming to back to the same ideas sometimes, and I think it's okay to repeat yourself, but I think having like whether it's a co-writer or co-director, co-collaborator, it gets you out of the cycles, the synapses that are in your brain where you just kind of like keep returning to things. And it's the weird mistakes that the AI does that are really inspiring to me. And so I think if you can like seek out those things that you normally wouldn't have thought of, and then find ownership of like, oh, that's a weird side effect, but it actually leads me to creating something that I would have never created before. Yeah, I don't know if that.
I will also jump in on this, which is you have a very unique and distinct voice. And one of the things that you've shared is that you don't typically go to the AI to generate your first ideas.
Sure.
So, yeah, how do you build? Is it your own ideas and then you use it to iterate?
Yeah, I mean, I think from my music video work, I've always seeked out techniques, that and try to come up with rules for things. So I'm always trying to develop a new technique, a new like set of rules that can, be used in a music video. So I have this backlog of is that feedback? Of like things that I'm like, okay, that would be interesting, but then I'd kind of abandon them because they're just complicated to do and a pain in the ass. So now with AI, I can kind of return back to some ideas I abandoned because it's just a lot easier. Rotoscoping, all these things are happening like much faster now, and I don't need a huge team to do them, that I can try out stuff. And yeah, but it always comes back to like thinking kind of conceptually about my work and trying to give yourself some constraints, because yeah, the thing with AI is like you could just go on forever. And so I think knowing your own artistic constraints is what kind of shapes your voice.
Do you guys ever find yourselves kind of in like the loot box situation where you're like hitting generate, seeing if whatever comes out?
2 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's cool, but this one might be better. It's like fishing, you're like, I just gotta get that big one, I think my mic might be the one that's humming.
Which microphone's messing up, by the way?
All of us.
Oh, there it goes.
I told you we're the artists.
Feedback loops.
Yeah.
Synthetic feedback loops.
But it's good to like, it's always good to have somebody either on your team or somebody you can check with who just doesn't give a crap about AI. Like they're like, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't even care about HD. Like, like you just need somebody like that who just doesn't care at all, because they're like the real metric. And honestly, that's what most of the audiences are. Like, no one cares what camera you shoot on. No one cares what software you use. Like, they just care if like they enjoy watching the thing. So, we're obviously in our bubble, in our world, and it's always good to like, whether it's like your grandma or somebody else, just like finding somebody who just doesn't care and just wants to enjoy it for what it is, and see if you can connect to them, with your art.
Does it work outside of the tool? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Because then it's just gimmick work, right?
Yeah.
I feel like it depends though, because like some people, they like other artists, they might care about what tools you're using to make the thing, but maybe like the consumer might just care about the output, the final thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like if I'm trying to like communicate to an artist, they're like, okay, well, what tools did you use? Versus consumers are like, does it tell a good story?
Yeah.
I also want to like add a little bit of neuroscience here, because I think that our ability to visualize very clearly, it goes underappreciated a lot, and I think that's like a very important skill to have. And that's something that I'm realizing about myself, where I'm kind of like describing scenes to people, and then they were like, wow, I feel like I was just there. But it's actually something that's a skill, and it's something that a lot of other people who might not be artists actually don't utilize or don't have. Because I was talking with my friend about aphantasia, which is like an inability to visualize things in your mind, or inability to visualize things clearly. So if I say treehouse, like, if you imagine treehouse, like you're going to be imagining a different treehouse from like the person next to you. And that's kind of like what you're putting as prompts into the AI. And so it's always going to look different based on kind of like how your brain works, how you visualize. Some people actually just visualize in black and white, and the ability to kind of like see all the details clearly in your mind is actually part of you as an artist as well.
I would also add that it's the ability to ask questions.
Yes.
That some of us don't really learn that soft skill, where sometimes we have issues with talking to people, and so the shyness sort of gets in the way. Sometimes we really don't have access to others who ask good questions. And so it's both visualization and also curiosity. And so one thing is, let's say you are good at asking questions, and yet there's so much that is, I guess, proliferating in the market. We've talked about like so many different kinds of art that are coming out. And there's a bit of a pushback in the artistic community, with folks who are used to putting in so much time and labor into the work that they create. And so when they're thinking about AI art, the pushback is it's too easy. It's way too easy. And so, Niko, I would love to direct this at you, is should real art be harder to make?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, and if not, what are people missing? If so, how can we infuse that specialness back into the creative process using these tools?
Yeah, because there's certainly you try to stand out, especially as an artist, in a world of 8 billion people or however many there are now. You're trying to stand out. You're trying to put your thing out there. So if you do something that's really hard and you're good at it, you can stand out, right? It's like, oh, I play the violin. I played it for 30 years. I'm very good. And it's like you play it, like, wow, you are really good. You're better than most people because you put in so much time and effort. But if somebody else came out like, oh, here's a violin playing robot, so you just kind of whistle and then it'll just play the violin as good as you, and it's free. Everybody can just have one. Like, does that steal your specialness? And there is a facet of that. Like, art isn't just about the vision. There is a craftsmanship side to art. And as that disappears, it can feel odd. I mean, I don't know about how you guys feel. Obviously, we're all like in the AI space too, but I kind of feel like the job of visual effects artist in like 10 years is going to be it's gonna be like a film loader or a stop motion animator. Like, there'll still be some specialized people that do it, but I think that overall industry is going to see huge shifts, because when a filmmaker and editor can just type in or click some buttons or effectively be enabled to visualize something, you may not need that visual effects artist who has that skill, that craftsmanship they've spent years honing to then go in and do that work. And that can be a really scary thing, but I think at the end of the day, if we step back from our technical world of art into like the more abstract, pretentious world of art for a second here, it's at the end of the day, it's about your message, it's about who you are, and you're trying to just put that out there. And that's something that you can't really synthesize. You have all these different ways of doing it, but your message is still going to be your message. And at the end of the day, the ideas matter. Your concept is king. So it's like, if you have a special idea, that's what's going to make it special. It's not your execution being hard that's going to make it special. It's not how much money you spent or didn't spend that's going to make it special. But there's definitely going to be a learning curve, and everybody's going to have to find a new way to stand out when the barrier of, oh, that's hard to do, stops being a barrier to being able to make the stuff that you want to make.
Yeah, let's get some claps. These are great. These are rich answers. So I actually want to go to Grace on this one. One of the things, I'm going to sort of move a little bit forward. One of the things that we've chatted about, or that you've shared, is the idea of skills that are going to be needed in the future that may not exist currently. And I'm curious, with that understanding, what are the skills that are going to be necessary for filmmakers, storytellers, folks in this space, in this really beautiful intersection? What are the things we're going to need to master and to start thinking about mastering now?
Yeah. I mean, you touched on one, which is about asking the right questions, being able to, and that's kind of how you can fine tune and really prompt the AI to get better results for you. And then also being very descriptive. Again, I just touched on it before, where I'm actually surprised, because it's maybe a skill that we can take for granted as artists, the ability to visualize. I mean, I have whole worlds playing out in my head, and I didn't realize that wasn't the case for people. That I was just speaking to other people where they're just like, oh, they don't visualize as clearly, and it's more blurry, more hazy. And so the ability to be very descriptive, down to like the fine details of like what you're seeing in your head and creating that into a scene. And then really like going to your personal experience and coming up with a lot of these like personal stories. I hope and I expect that we'll see more diversity in storytelling, with AI being more accessible to more people, that will a lot more stories that we haven't seen in Hollywood before. And then also with there's pros and cons. So with the advent of AI, we're also going to need to improve our critical thinking skills, because there's going to be a lot of not just fake news, but not being able to discern reality from what's digital and what's fantasy. And so being able to have critical thinking skills, so you can like really discern the truth and really get to the root of it.
I love that. It makes me think about the idea of sort of organic farming. Like people didn't think about organic farming until there became a more revolution around sourcing and where does our food come from. And so I think in this way, there's a kind of turn towards like, okay, where is our sourcing? What is the sourcing of this material? Has it been generated by something that I'm seeing as human or sourcing it from the perspective of a synthetic AI? And how does that change my perception of it? So that discernment, I think, is so valuable. Did anyone else have any notes on that one? Because I think it's a very rich question. Thank you, Grace.
On like the
skills.
Skills. Yeah, I mean that's kind of like I think what this whole AI on the lot is about, right? Is this is a industry that's based on skills. I think there's other ways of using AI that people can use, and it doesn't really threaten skills. AI does a lot of stuff, but what we're here really about, it comes down to skills, and are my skills being threatened? And it's a hard thing because I like to do tedious work, and I spent a lot of time building my skills, but you also have to like disassociate your own personal identity from the skills you learn, because you have to know that life and technology is constantly changing. And so I think there's a lot of ego around people that have dedicated years and years of experience into becoming a master at something, and then they see that suddenly becoming not as valid because everyone can be a master. And so that concern is completely, I hear that, and it's completely valid. But I think there's no reversing time, right? There's no closing Pandora's box. So the people that are going to excel the most, people like Niko, that you have a life of experience of like doing visual effects, and then you showed what skill plus new tech gives you that actually like not everyone could have done that anime video, right? Even though some people on Twitter like to disagree, and they're like, oh yeah, they just press some buttons. But like you can see the people that have the traditional skills, when they are paired with this new technology, can excel even further. We'll see maybe that we hit a certain weird singularity moment where that doesn't matter. But the people now that already have a step ahead in knowing visual effects and filmmaking and storytelling have the most to gain out of this. So there's like this fallacy of like, oh, now everyone can do it, but it's like, yeah, but you are already a few steps ahead, so this is great for you too. And I think what it also does is, because the idea of craft, like you still will need craft recognizes craft, I guess. Like you still need craft to know whether the output is good. And there's a lot of terrible stuff, to be frank, that I see made with AI. And so you still need to like have that idea eye for it. But once the craft barrier kind of gets taken down, yeah, I think it's exciting, because maybe it's cool that explosions aren't cool anymore. Like it's like we've seen a lot. We've seen enough of explosions, and now everyone can have the explosion button, and then it's like, all right, well, what else does life have to offer? So yeah.
I jump in there too with skills, because like I think right now a lot of like technical folks like ourselves have like that's been our skill. It's like being very good at doing very technical things. And so like at least for me, I've been seeing the need to like focus on the humanity skills. Like how do you actually interact with real people again? Because like I spend so much time behind the computer screen, and I'm like editing for hours. Now I'm trying to think, how do I go and have events, and go and like interact with people in real life? Because I think those skills are going to transfer when AI takes over more things. Because I mean, if you think it's taken a lot now, it's coming for a lot more. And so I think what's going to be left is a lot of humanity skills. The other one on there, there's a skill that I think could be very like helpful for the room, is the skill of learning how to adapt faster. So I would encourage anyone that's like doesn't feel like they're able to adapt very fast to take an improv class, like an actual acting improv class, because that type of thinking that it would do in your brain is exactly the kind of skill that's going to transfer very, very well in this future that we're going into. And it's like divergent thinking is another skill. So any exercises that you can do online or any classes that you can take that would encourage divergent thinking versus convergent thinking are going to be very helpful. So those are like some very practical human skills that, like, take an improv class, please. It's worth it. It's worth the time, and it's very fun.
That's really good advice.
I also want to add another. So like for art historians or like like anyone who majored in like art history or cinema history, I guess like at that time it was like, oh, what can I do with art history? But now it actually becomes like it actually matters, because if you studied art history and like cinema history or like any kind of like liberal arts major, then you have a leg up, because you actually know like what kind of like time period or what kind of art style resonated with you, and then you can actually just like go in and prompt and then like do some prompting according to that era and art style.
Yeah, I feel like every leap in technology is effectively like a fundamentals check, right? When technology advances, it empowers you, it makes it easier to do what you're trying to do. So the fancy skills that you have become less relevant. And it comes down to, once again, your fundamentals. Can you tell a basic story well? And like I constantly talk about how, like, when I was going to college, like I didn't really study film. I studied like painting and drawing, even though I knew I wanted to do visual effects and filmmaking. But as an art program, you had to take those other classes. But it turns out that those were the things that taught me how to be a better filmmaker. Like learning how to use Adobe Premiere or Final Cut Pro back then. Like, great, that's a great tool, but like I'm not using Final Cut Pro anymore, But the fundamentals are really what matters. And I don't know, it's like it brings a certain sense of like purity back to the craft. It's really about the fundamentals and just doing those well, which is cool. And learning how to learn, like you mentioned, like the improv class. Learning how to learn is like one of the best skills you could develop right now.
100%.
Yeah.
It's a very Sufi philosophy. There's a whole book on it. So one thing that I've actually noticed from the more philosophical perspective is that it's people's relationship to change, right? Like people have a very complex relationship to things changing. And so when they're presented with this intensity of change, this pace, and everyone around them also dealing with all of these lack of self-regulation, lack of skills and coping mechanisms for how to address change in a more meaningful, empathetic, emotionally intelligent way, those things play out and are sort of blamed on the technology rather than it being something that is held gracefully and understood as like a primal fear. And so I guess the question that I have next is like recognizing that these fears come up and recognizing that there's so much possibility on the other side. We're embracing a lot of novelty. We're embracing a lot of change. There's two things I want to explore. One is resilience strategies. Strategies outside of just sort of learning how to learn. Are there other resilience strategies that have helped you all as folks that are both creators and also in the sort of influencer culture maintain grounding and not speed up with the pace, but sort of slow down in order to speed up, and what those strategies have been for you?
So like with resilience, one thing that might seem counterintuitive to build resilience in AI is roller skating.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like physical roller
I
skating.
love this one.
All right.
So
No, yeah, of course.
I swear
Makes
it's
sense.
related. So like what I was finding is that I was like I go into like the scrolling of all the AI news every day. And I was starting my mornings, afternoons, and evenings doing this. And it's so cool because it's so much new developments, but then it was actually becoming overwhelming and I wasn't even realizing it because like my body was actually feeling like overwhelmed. I found that I've actually made more breakthroughs in AI when I literally took a break to go outside and roller skate and then skate for like an hour and then come back in, and I had like this calmness. And then now I'm actually allowed to innovate way further than if I just stressed myself out from all the news that I was scrolling through. So if that's one way to kind of build resilience training is and I chose roller skating because it's very difficult for me to use my phone when I'm roller skating. I need to add friction back into my interaction, because otherwise, if I was left on my own, I'll get the phone out and I'll start scrolling again, and that would defeat the whole purpose of like taking a little break. So if you can find that thing that can help you take a little break that you can't ignore because you'll fall on your face and like bust up your nose or something, that's a great thing to do if it means, at least for me, because now I'm a lot more calm when I go through the news and I'm like, oh, I probably need to take a roller skate break now. Like I'm gonna stop scrolling, I'm gonna go outside and then
Easy
come
out.
back in, and then you can innovate way faster.
Roll in, roll out.
Bingo.
Yeah, that's actually how the brain works. You have attention mode and then you have your diffuse mode. So it's like you can't just like focus on something 24/7. You need to like have breaks so that your brain can process and marinate on the ideas and come back refreshed with like more ideas. And then and I would think so. Like for me, besides adapting and learning new skills, because right now I work across different industries, across Web3, AR, VR, and AI, and it's like fire hoses just coming at me and it's a lot to juggle, but I think really balancing it with like really keeping check on my own energy levels and not letting all the new plugins, new news just like distract you, but really focusing in on your own energy level and really honing in on your authentic voice and what you're trying to express, what you're trying to put out in the world. There's always going to be a new tool coming out every single second, so really try to focus. So for my approach is like really focusing on what I have to say, what my authentic voice is, and then learning the tools to express that message. So that's how I've been approaching it.
Beautiful. Niko, Paul?
At Corridor, we have a philosophy of really trying to limit how many hours people spend in the studio. We try to like really avoid crunches, things like that. Because you can't make art about work. You have to make art about life. So if you're not taking the time to live life around the work, then you don't have anything to talk about or to reflect upon. So because we just really try to like be like, hey, there's time for work, but there's also time for just living, which is not your work. And you really have to like preserve both of them and like keep that relaxing time just sacred and set aside, because that's when you're going to have the experiences that you then take to work and you make your art about.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have much to add to that because it's all been said, but yeah, I think there's just a tendency to have this FOMO about all the new tools that are coming out, and I think you just have to, once you like just relinquish FOMO, it's really liberating. So as much as you can, like, stay on top of it. Don't get drowned in it and find yourself too far behind. But just don't. Who cares about FOMO? Just like move on. And I think my best ideas come when I'm walking my dog or whatever. Those are always the ones that
try it on roller skates.
Yeah, I know. I got a roller skate.
Try it on roller skates.
Yeah,
which most beautiful
skates
dog.
and dogs.
Also, shower
Good
thoughts.
combo.
So maybe like roller skating in the shower might.
Dangerous.
That's so much more efficient.
Microdosing.
At 2 a.m. when you're falling asleep.
Yeah, just say whenever your partner is like, what are you doing? Be like, well, they told me to do it at the panel. Yeah.
Generating AI
Prompting.
in my mind.
It's also interesting because I've been starting to work. I'm a director, but I've also started to work in AI consulting. And the thing that people feel the most anxious about is like, what happens if I don't know about the next new tool? And it's actually impossible. The rate at which these studies are coming out, the rate at which these different apps are being created, not even OpenAI, who's created the API for so many of these companies, has no idea what's being created with them. And it's physically impossible. You need AI to learn about all the AI that's coming out.
Yep.
So relinquishing that control creates a lot more ease and openness and spaciousness. But in that same vein, I have so many more questions, but I guess I'll open it up to the audience. So for those of you who have some questions, and then I'll have a wrap-up one. Also, if you want to pull this down.
Thank you, panel. That was really, really informative. Talking about workflow, can you guys give us some insight? What AI tools would you use for movie making from ideation to distribution?
So here's a whole bunch. If you can like shotgun all these down. All right, so we got Runway ML, Gen 1 and Gen 2. Also under Runway ML, you got all their green screen effects. Then there's a tool called Kyber. Kyber is really good at doing similar to what Runway does. Then there's we got Wonder Dynamics, Wonder Studio, fantastic ones. Another one that's good is Midjourney version 5, DALL-E 2, DALL-E 2.5. I would still use GPT-4 a lot. If you're struggling with prompts, use GPT-4 to come up with prompts to prompt those AI tools. That's a really good workflow. Let's see.
Automatic 1111.
Which one you got?
Automatic 1111.
Automatic 1111.
Stable diffusion?
Oh, sorry. Yes, Stable Diffusion. Jeez, oh my God. Yes, Stable Diffusion. Throw that in there. 11 Labs for voices.
I'd throw DaVinci Resolve in there too. There's a lot of AI tools in there, from like the normal maps, relighting to automatic Z-depth generation. Yeah.
And at least the thing that I've seen is that every artist's workflow is a sort of a variation of different stacks. And so they'll use a variety of tools, stacking them in different ways. And also a part of the experimentation is what you stack before the other, and recognizing that it's iterative, it's looping, and some stacks will give you an effect you like, and then the next day you would want to try something different. So it's sort of like how these things pair together is like making cocktails.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's something I had done was also Luma Labs is for nerfs. It's a very user-friendly
So easy.
app, and stacking effects. That's another way I come up with concepts of just like, what if I did this plus that, and then what if I threw this into there as well? So I did a piece where I shot like a shitty 2-minute video out the plane window of some clouds. I thought what nerfs do really well, just accidentally, is like make cloud formations. So I was like, oh, what if I threw this cloud video into a cloud-based kind of thing? And it made a 3D cloud landscape. So then I could fly my 3D camera through the clouds that I shot on an iPhone, and I could fully explore this world of clouds. But the resolution breaks down at a certain point. So I used automatic 1111 to run, like skin it I made it like sunset. I made it like sort of pinkish sunset and frame by frame. And then I used EBSynth to kind of like stick the texture from automatic 1111 onto the nerf clouds. And I got a piece of footage that like was totally impossible. It was a camera move that you could have never created, and it still looked somewhat photorealistic, and there was no actual 3D software I had to know to do it. So yeah, stacking effects is a great way to explore and just try things. I know you've stacked effects. You're all about that.
I'd love to jump more, but you got some grace.
You can also export GLTFs from Google Earth. So you can, if you want like real world scenes, street scenes, you can actually just like grab the GLTF from Google Earth now. And then for like funding, like infrastructure wise, so my films have been Web3 funded. So it's like NFT funded. And so that's kind of like funded by the collectors. And then like the collectors like also like watch the films afterwards. So that's like a really nice model as well.
We also add. Sorry, go ahead. No, you go.
Augmented reality. So I use ARKit and Reality Composer to build AR scenes. I then place those augmented reality objects in my real world. They have real-time rotoscoping, so you can place stuff behind your subject or in front. And then I film with the AR in the scene, then take that video that has the AR and the humans, and then run that through Stable Diffusion with a style transfer. And all of a sudden, you're making like any style, anything. And it's really, because I was trying to bring AR and 3D back into it, because I'm a very big fan of AR and 3D. And I was getting scared about where does that live in this new AI world. You can use it to basically make the props and the environments and the costume changes that you put onto people, and then run that through Stable Diffusion or any generative model, and you can get infinite everything.
I think a big theme that you're going to hear about anybody who talks about workflows, though, is you need to be aware of where the randomness exists, because there's so much randomness from these AI models. You need to control that. And a lot of the ways we all control that is usually with 3D animation, whether it's putting in a 3D model that's been already made, or setting up a basic scene in like Unreal or Blender and using that to guide the generation. Because when you just have generation, you're just rolling dice. And maybe you'll eventually get something pretty, but we're not, I'm not just throwing paint at a canvas.
Take one more question, you guys. And this is from your fabulous AV team who's been working hard all day. Let's have a hand for the AV team.
AV team.
Are we gonna?
We love crew.
So I want to frame this to you, Niko, but open to all of you guys. When you were starting in Corridor, making Team Fortress 2 Nerf videos.
Yes.
I think that we can all relate to kind of the scrappiness of initial filmmaking, where we had to get, down and dirty. How do you reconcile that with now these new tools? Does that enhance the power of those scrappy moments as filmmakers, or does it? How do you think it interacts with that?
It definitely enhances the scrappiness. I mean, we're reaching a point where all you need to do is provide the idea of what it is you're going for, and then the neural network, the machine learning model will take it the rest of the way for you. You don't have to shoot on a red. Shoot it on an old camera, because as long as the subject's there, you can say, hey, make it look like it was shot on a red. Make it look like it was shot on film. Make it look like it was shot. We're not quite there yet. We're getting really, really close. So it's really just about directing. It's just about being a director. And the scrappiness, like all that stuff still exists. And I was telling somebody else this analogy, but like we consider ourselves like, if the world of filmmaking is an ocean, we're a jet ski, right? There's people that are driving cruise ship. Like Disney is a giant cruise ship or cargo ship. And they can carry a lot of stuff, But when you see a cool idea, we can go, zoop, we can take a turn, we can go visit that island, we can go check out that wave, we can see that coral reef, and we can come back and we can keep going. Once again, it's like the party's not as big as a party on a cruise ship, but it's still a lot of fun, right? So the scrappiness is great, and these tools are they're just rewarding that scrappiness even more. But you still want to keep that scrappiness because that's how you experiment.
Yeah.
I intentionally shoot like all my Instagram experiments, or most of them, on my iPhone to show that there's not really a barrier to entry. Like, look, you've got a phone too, but then I'm creating like outfits that don't exist. I'm creating environments that don't exist. I'm adding architecture to my neighborhood that wasn't there before, and it's shot on an iPhone. So that's sort of by design, just to hopefully inspire people that the scrappiness is actually to your benefit, because you can move more nimbly.
I'm so sorry, you guys. We have to wrap because we're trying to make our end schedule. But let's have a big hand for this panel. Oh my God.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. You've been a great audience. Amazing.